Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ask Amber, and as you can probably see by the title, I am making a model based on Ariana Grande from her new 34:35 music video, which will be available to all of my top tier Patreons as soon as this video is live. So if you're interested in downloading the FBX for this model with all the outfit and everything that I've made here, feel free to head on over to my Patreon. With that being said, let's get started. So I'm going to start as usual in Vroid Studios, which is where I make all of my hair, and a lot of times I make bodies too because they're really easy to edit once I bring them into Blender. So this hair I'm making is basically like a half up, half down with a big poof on top. It's very like retro looking. I've been making a lot of retro looking models lately, but this one is for a purpose for sure. So once I finish that poof, I'm going to export her and just bring that model into Blender. Once it's in Blender, I'm going to fix the model, and I usually will go through and fix all of the different strands of hair. So basically the bones are not always perfect when I bring them in and I have to connect them. So I go through and I do all of that, and then I like to use my sculpt tool and just get the top part of the head like just really perfect. Once that's done, I'm bringing my face in. This is my custom face that I've been using on all of my models lately. I've built this one from scratch and I'm very proud of it. And then I'm going to edit the hair color just slightly in Photoshop and bring that back in, as well as the eye color. And I'm going to make this a brown color, but I'm going to add a little bit of interest, adding some yellows and oranges and just having mostly dark around the edges. That way it cannot look just like super deep brown, but it can be more of an interesting brown. Then I'm making her body and her face a little bit different color because I want it to match the skin tone of Ariana Grande. And so once I've done that, I'm actually adding a new lip photo, and so I just take this from a photo that I found online, and I'm just editing this pretty heavily so that it fits within my model, because once I put it on the actual mesh in Blender, I want it to fit perfectly. Then I'm just going to go ahead and add some eyeshadow before changing the color up on her lips a little bit to kind of be more cohesive with the makeup look. Once I've added that to her face in Blender, I'm just going to delete some extra vertices that I don't need, and I'm going to mess with her eyebrows just a tiny bit so that they're a little bit edited from what they were before. And I'm going to take the body that I brought in from Vroid Studios, and I'm just going to do some extra sculpting to it because I never like the way that the bodies come just by themselves, and I like to make them highly custom, so I want them to look exactly how I want. Then I export that to OBJ and I bring it into Marvelous Designer. So I'm just starting with a cute little pair of panties to begin with, and then I will start sculpting the rest of her outfit. So she has this little dress, and it has like the top part is really fluffy and furry, and I'm going to create that fur in Blender, but I still need a base for it. So I create this top part for her, and then I'm just going to make this cute little flowy skirt, and there's actually fur trim on the skirt as well. So I'm going to make sure that I have a separate piece for the top and a separate piece for the bottom hem of the skirt, so that when I put it all together in Blender, I have a place to put that fur, because it's going to need to be separated in Blender in order to get the fur only on those pieces. Once I'm finished in Marvelous Designer, I just export it, and it's time to bring it into Blender and place it on the model. Then I'm just going to separate out the different pieces that I want to have fur on so that they're own piece, and I'm going to add fur. I have a tutorial on how to add this fur on my channel, so if you're interested in learning how to do that, go ahead and check that out. So I'm going to start by making the plane and putting my material on it, and then I select the areas where I want the fur, and I'm adding a particle system to it and making the adjustments like I show in my other video. And then I'm just adding that plane to the particle instance. So I use a modifier for that. Like I said, I have a tutorial on this. It's actually really super easy, and it turns out looking so good. Then I'm just going to change the color of that from white to pink. And then I'm going to actually change the color of the skirt as well. I'm going to change it to be that same kind of pink, but I'm also going to make sure that it's a little bit see-through so that when I put it on, it's sheer. So look at that. That looks so awesome. Next, I'm going to work on the panties, make those pink as well. I mean, they're kind of pinkish purple, but you know, in the middle somewhere. Then I'm making her gloves by basically using my knife tool to cut a straight edge in her arms themselves and making them a separate material. And I'm just making these a purple material before adjusting the edges of the gloves so they kind of come out a little bit so it doesn't look like it just came from arm to glove with no transition whatsoever. So once I do that on both sides, they look a lot more like gloves. Then I'm going to work on the feet and the shoes. So basically I am just adjusting the feet so that they're pointed downwards, and then I apply that as my rest pose. And then I'm just adjusting because they looked a little bit flat and funny without me doing a little bit of shaping to them. And I don't plan on having these go flat again, so this is totally fine. Next, I work on the shoes, and let me just tell you, this first attempt, just disregard this because I did not end up liking the technique that I used for this. So I went in straight up with a subdivision surface modifier, and I did not like it. But I mean, I spent a good amount of time, but I wanted more chunky shoes. So here you can see I'm working on the heel, which I did end up keeping the heel. But after I had made this little polygon shaped toe strap, I guess you can call it, I decided that I really hated that heel. So I actually ended up remaking the heel to be a lot more blocky. So I just started with a cube and I just extruded surfaces and kind of, worked at it over and over until I got exactly what I wanted. And you know what? This much more simplified, much smaller, easier, simpler piece of shoe, I liked it so much better in the end. So I just started with the block, and then I kind of ended up just extruding edges here and there to make it look more like what I wanted. And you can see it's a lot more blocky, but I really liked it so much better in the end. So, if the first time you do something doesn't work out, like even if it was a lot of work, which the other one did end up being a lot of work, I just tossed it because this is better. Sometimes it's okay to go for what's better. Once I did that, I ended up making a little ankle strap because I thought about not making the ankle strap, but then I was like, no, I really wanted to have like the full effect. So I made a little ankle strap with a little strap on the back to hold it on, and then I added a material to it, and I actually used the same material as the gloves, so it's a little bit shiny, a little bit shimmery, and it's that same purple color. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm really, really proud of these shoes. I think they're probably my favorite part of this whole outfit. Once that was done, I actually went back in with my sculpt tool and fixed a bunch of the hair, just making sure that it was perfect before going in with my weight paint tool. And fur does not always like to take data transfer perfectly, so sometimes you just have to, give it a little extra love with that weight painting, go in manually and get it just right, especially around the legs. And I've done this a few times. My trick is just to go with a mixture of the blend tool and about a 10 to 20% of the add tool, and just kind of go back and forth until you get it right. And there's no really secret trick to it, it's just keep going. Once I was done with that, I made sure to test out all the different pieces. That's really the most important part, is to go into your pose mode and go into all these weird, wacky poses to make sure that all of your weight painting is secure and looks good. So if you are having trouble with weight painting, just make sure that you do a lot of testing, go back and forth, and most of all, have patience. That's super important with weight painting. And now that all that is done, it's time to show you the final reveal of Ariana Grande. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this. I post them all the time, along with tutorials on Blender, 3D, modeling, VR chat, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, feel free to come back, hit that little bell icon so you get notified of all of my new uploads. And once again, if you want this Ariana Grande FBX model, including everything that you see here, head on over to my Patreon and download one for yourself. With that being said, thank you so much, and I'll see ya in the next video.